Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel. Today we'll be talking about Azure Virtual Machines. So in this video we'll see what is Azure Virtual Machine, how can we use that means how can you create it on Azure portal, how can you delete the Azure Virtual Machine, and what are different components or services that are being used to create the virtual machines. So let's get started. Now what is virtual machine? So as the name suggests, it is a machine. So it is very similar to the physical servers, laptops or desktop that you use. So it has some RAM, CPU, disk or any storage, right? So it is very much similar to your laptop. So it is kind of a computing resource that is being provided to you by cloud providers. So it is ideal for running applications, hosting websites and other workloads without managing the physical hardware. That means you only need to manage the operating system, your applications, any software that you need to install on that, or your application data, right? So these things you need to manage. You don't need to manage the physical hardware. Physical hardware is being managed by the cloud providers. Now it works on a pay-as-you-go model. That means you are going to pay only for that number of hours in which you are running the virtual machine. There are few savings that you can do if you are going to use your virtual machine for a very longer period of time and you are sure that you are going to use it for 3 years or 2 years. In that case, you can reserve your virtual machines. Then the costing of those virtual machines will be very less in comparison to pay-as-you-go model, right? So it is IaaS, that means it works on an infrastructure as a service model, right? That means infrastructure is being managed by cloud, and rest the platform part and the application part is being managed by you. If you don't know the difference between IaaS, PaaS and SaaS, we have a video, you can refer to that. Now what is VM size? So this is very important concept. You can assume it like when you are going to buy your laptop, you just see what is your requirement. According to your requirement, you buy a specific number of CPU, right? 8 core of CPU or 16 core CPU, right? Or RAM, and on the basis of this CPU and RAMs, your costing also depends. So if the number of CPU and RAMs increases, the costing of the laptop increases, right? So this is what size is. This is the size of laptop, and similarly it is the size of virtual machine. So the number of processor cores and the amount of RAM basically decides the size of a virtual machine. So how can you decide what amount of size you need? So it depends on your workload. What kind of workload you are going to run on your virtual machine decides what size you need for your virtual machine. So there are wide range of options. Let's see that. If you will come to this link, you can see there are some virtual machine selectors. So if you want to see which machine is best for you on the basis of workload, you can just click on this link, and you can see there are different workload type. On the basis of that, we have different kind of machines. So on the basis of these workloads, like general purpose workload, compute intensive workload, memory intensive workload, that means this kind of workload required more compute in comparison to memory, and these kind of workload required a lot of memory, right? So on the basis of workloads, basically the sizes are being divided. So let's see. So what are general purpose workload? So any dev test environment if you are going to run, or any entry level or mid range of databases or web servers that you are planning to run, you can run on general purpose workload. So best VM families for general purpose workload is A, B, D and DC. That means if the VM size name is getting started with A, B, D and DC, that means you can use these families for your VM. Now if your workload is compute intensive, so if you have any video encoding and rendering, gaming apps or AI inferencing scenarios, or any web servers that need a lot of compute, then you can use F and FX family. If you have memory intensive workload, that means which need a very large amount of memory, for example large relational database servers or warehousing, business intelligence applications or any memory analytics workload, so these kind of workloads that are memory intensive runs on E and M family. So some are storage intensive workloads like NoSQL databases or large transactional databases. You can use L series for that. Similarly, we have GPU enabled workloads and high performance computing workloads. You can explore this on your own. We'll share this link with you. Now we have seen what is virtual machine, how to decide the size. Now you also need disk, right? So when you need to install Ubuntu or Windows on your laptop, you do some disk partition, right? So it is very much similar to that, just it is virtual. So it is kind of a virtualized storage device that can store OS and applications and data, right? So there could be two kind of virtual disk, one that stores operating system and another disk that will store your applications and data. So virtual disks are basically categorized into three different categories. So the first one is performance critical workload. So if your workload needs a very good performance, in that case you may need ultra disk or premium SSD. So for your general purpose workloads, you can use premium SSD or standard SSD. For cost sensitive workloads, you can use a standard SSD or standard SSD. Now, if you want to create a VM, you may need a lot of things such as VNet and subnet. So what is VNet and subnet? So VNet is a virtual network. So you know what is network? So it is a group of IP, right? So let's say this network is in the range /16. Okay. So to create a virtual machine, you first need to have a virtual network, and inside this network, you can create a virtual machine. Okay. This network can be divided into different subnetworks, right? So for example, I am dividing this network into two different networks, right? So it is known as subnets. So this network has two subnets. You can name it as subnet A and subnet B. So when you divide this network into two different subnets, the IP addresses or this CIDR range will also be divided. So this subnet will have the CIDR of /17 and this will have 128.0/17. Right, so it depends on how you are dividing your subnets. It wouldn't be always like this. It depends on how you are going to divide your subnets. For now, I have divided into equal parts, and that's why I am assuming the IP's ranges are divided in this format. Okay. Now virtual NIC. So NIC is a network interface card, right? You must have heard about interface. So it is very much similar to that, and basically it is a virtual network interface card which gets attached to VM, and it basically helps to attach this VM to this network, right? So if you want to attach your VNet with your VM, for that you will need an IC, network interface card. So network interface card will have minimum of one IP address. It will have minimum of one private IP address. You can also assign a public IP address to it. Now what is private and public IP address? So IP address is kind of an address that you basically provide on your services. So my virtual machine will have some IP address, right? It can be a public IP address or private IP address. For example, if my network is in this IP address, so I can say that the IP address on this virtual machine could be this, right? So the IP address of this virtual machine is this, and this is a private IP address because the IP range is being provided from this network. So this virtual machine will have a private IP address. We can also provide a public IP address to this virtual machine. In that case, if this virtual machine will have public IP address, that means it will be able to talk to internet. Otherwise, if it will have only private IP, that means it will be able to talk to the components that are present only in this virtual network. It can't talk to any other machine that is present in different network, unless until you have configured some connectivity between these two networks. I guess this is clear. Now what is network security group? So network security group is basically assigned at a subnet level or at NIC, your network interface card. So on the basis of IP address or ports is like your HTTP is run on 80 port, your HTTPS application run on 443, right? So these are the ports. So on the basis of ports and IP address, you can define some firewall which will block the traffic on subnet level or NIC level, right? So this is kind of a virtual firewall, right, which can manage, through which you can manage your inbound traffic and outbound traffic. So inbound traffic is anything that is coming to your virtual machine, right? So you can manage this traffic on the basis of IP address and ports. So for example, let's say if I have blocked this traffic 443 and 80 using NSG. I have blocked these two ports. I haven't allowed these ports. That means any IP address will not be able to communicate with my virtual machine on these ports, right? Or for example, if I haven't allowed any IP address to communicate with my virtual machine, in that case, no traffic will be allowed on my virtual machine. Similarly, there is an outbound traffic. You can also manage the outbound traffic. That means whatever traffic is going from this virtual machine, you can also manage that. So this is what NSG is. It is kind of a firewall, but basically manage the inbound and outbound traffic on the basis of different IP address or ports. Now we have already talked about disk. So disk on which you can install your operating system and your application and data, right? So these are the components that you need to create your virtual machine. Now we'll see how can we create our virtual machine on the portal. We learn everything in detail in the networking classes. When we learn about VNets and subnets, we'll see everything in very detail. Okay, so let's move forward on the Azure portal. For that, you need to type portal.azure.com, right? So we have landed to our portal. So this is your portal. From here, you can just click on virtual machines. You can search for virtual machines, and when you click on virtual machine, this page will appear. From here, you can just click on create and then click on Azure Virtual Machine. So yeah, from here you can select your subscription. We are using free trial for now. If you have any resource group, you can select that from this drop down. I don't have any, so I'll create a new resource group. Let's name it at DevOps Studio RG. Okay. Now this has been created. What is your virtual machine name? Let's name it as DevOps Web Server. Now which region you want to select? If you don't know the concept of region and zones, you can refer to our older video. Let's assume for now we are using East US. Now you can also select availability zone. So this is self-selected zone, right? So you can select any zone that you want to select. If you want to select 3 different zones, you can select it from here. If you want to use only single zone, then that is also okay. So for now, let's assume I am selecting zone 3. You can also let Azure select your region. This is in preview. Now you can select any security type. There are 3 types of security. The most secure option is confidential virtual machines. If there is some use case where you need a confidential virtual machine, you can select that. Or you can select this standard, which is basic level of security. The next option is trusted launch virtual machine, which protects against persistent and advanced attacks on Gen 2 virtual machines. So this is better. Now you can select any image. So what is an image? So image is basically a template, right? So using image, you can select any operating system or softwares that you want to install on your virtual machine. So in this option, this is the free service available. So we are going to select this one. Apart from that, you can see there are multiple options. If you are going to use Red Hat, if you want to use Red Hat Enterprise, so you can use this. If you want to use Debian or Windows, you can use this. So these are the different images that you can select. To see all the list of images, you can just go from there. You can create your own image as well. And if you go to this link, so now this is the marketplace from where you can see all the available images, right? From here you can see your images if you have created any, right? Or if there is any image that has been shared to you. So you can see from the list there are Windows servers, Ubuntu servers, SQL server, CentOS based, SharePoint server. So there are different kind of images that you can use, right? Now after selecting the image, you can just select your VM architecture, and then if you want to run VM an Azure spot discount, you can select this checkbox. Now what is a spot discount? Azure has a very large data center and lots of data center, right? In that data center there would some of the compute that is not utilized, that is underutilized. In that case you can use those resources on a very cheap price. So it is very cost efficient, but the problem is those resources can be taken away from you at any moment of time, right? So if you're going to run your resources on spot instances or spot VM, that can be cost efficient, but you can't run your production workload. This could only be for dev test environment. So what is spot VM? So you basically use spot VM to utilize unused Azure capacity. So it's very cost effective, but you can run only those workloads that can handle interruption, right? So it is very cost efficient, around 60 to 70% less costly than your pay as you go model. But the problem is it can be deallocated or stopped or evicted by Azure when there is a demand for the underlying capacity from higher priority workloads. So it can be taken away from you if there is a demand from a higher priority workloads. So it's basically ideal for batch processing or any dev test workload or ML workloads where interruption doesn't affect. So that means it is not useful for productions workload or any staging workload. Now let's move to size. The D family was for general purpose workload. We are okay with this workload. Now what would be the authentication type? How will you get authenticated with your VM? So there are two options. The first one is SSH public key and another one is password. So in case of password, you can provide any username that you want. You can provide any password and then just confirm this password. You will be using this username and password when you will be logging into your VM. Another one is SSH public key. This is the recommended and more secure way, right? So you should use SSH public key for that. You can change the username. For now we are just keeping it as Azure user. So if you want to use any existing key, so you can use that. For now we will be creating a new key pair. So let's select the RSA SSH format. This is more secure. And the name of the SSH public key. So now the inbound port rule. So select which virtual machine network ports are accessible from the public internet. So for now I want to allow SSH, so I can select this. I can also allow HTTP and HTTPS. So this particular port helps me to log in or SSH into our virtual machine. If I am not going to open these two ports, 80 and 443, in that case I will not be able to access any web server that are running on HTTP or HTTPS. So let's select these two. Now the next is disk selection. So I am going with the default disk sizes, which is 30 GB and premium SSD. If you want to encrypt your disk, so you can use any key. Either you can provide your own key or the platform managed key, which will be provided by Azure. So that was all required. Next is networking. So we have talked about virtual network. So it will create its own new network and it is going to create a new subnet for it that is named as default, and it will create a public IP for it, right, which is named as DevOps Web Server IP. Now the network security group is basic. If you are going to choose advanced, you need to create some rules for that. You can create your own network security group. For now we are going with the basic. We have allowed these inbound ports. If you want to allow more ports, you can just check it from here. Now there is an option to delete public IP and NIC when VM is deleted. So yeah, we want that, right? These are other options which are not essential for now. So we'll just go to review and create. Now it's the final validation is running, and so you can see the price is basically around 1 rupees per hour. And since the validation has passed, you can just recheck everything if you want to and just click on create. So you can see it's asking you to generate a new key pair. So what it will do, when you will click on this, it will download a private key for you. So in that case, when the private key is downloaded, you will be able to log into your virtual machine using this private key. So I will click on download private key and create resource. So I had already downloaded one, that's why it's showing this. I'll just click on save and I'll click on replace. I had already one private key with the same name, that's why I clicked on replace. Now it has been downloaded and you can see deployment is in progress. After a few seconds the deployment will get completed. So you can see different resources has been created like IP, NSG, VNet has been created. Currently it is trying to create the web server. The resource has been created. You can see the deployment succeeded status. So yeah, you can go to the resource from here and you can see this is your DevOps web server. You can get all the basic information about web server from this page, which operating system you are using, which size you are using. So in this virtual machine we are using one virtual CPU and 1 GB of memory. Now this is the public IP address. The location is in East US and there are few more information that you can check, right? So network interface is this is the public IP address through which we can connect, and other information you can explore it on your own. Now if we'll click on resource group, you can see with virtual machine there are few more resources that has been created. So the first one is of course the web server, the virtual machine. The next one is public IP address. Next is SSH key, then network security group, which is NSG, then virtual network, which is VNet, and network interface, which is NIC, network interface card. And the last one is the disk, which will get attached to the virtual machine and it will store our operating system, which is Ubuntu for now. We have used Ubuntu as an operating system and the software that we'll install on this disk. Okay, now let's get back to the web server. Now we'll check how to connect with this web server. So you can see from here we have connect option, restart option, stop option and few more. So first let's check how can we connect with this virtual machine. Just click on connect. You will get the information again like your admin username, which is Azure user, the port. So there are two common ways in which you can connect to your virtual machine. This is the recommended way because it will allow you to quickly connect in the browser itself, and this is the another way. So in most of the cases this is the way in which we connect with the virtual machine. So this is the most common way. For that you may need Git bash if you are using a Windows machine, or if you are using Linux laptop, in that case you can use terminal. So currently I'm using a Windows machine, so I'll just search for Git bash. So in whatever directory you have downloaded your PEM key, you can just go to that directory. I have downloaded my PEM key in desktop, so I'll go to the desktop. So yeah, now to connect with my virtual machine, I may need SSH. So I'll write SSH-I and then your key, the key that you have downloaded. So the name of the key was DevOps web server key.pem, right? And then you need to pass your username, which is Azure user @ the public IP of your virtual machine. So this is 172.171.242.179 for me, right? If I'll click on enter, if I'll do the enter, it is asking, are you sure you want to continue connecting? Yes, I want to. I clicked on, I write yes. Now we are connected. You can see from here, you can see it has been connected and you can run any Ubuntu commands, any Linux command here. Now let's install Nginx web server on this machine. So it will install Nginx, and -y is whenever the prompt will ask for yes or no, we are going to say yes automatically. So it will install the Nginx web server. Now we'll just check whether the Nginx has been enabled or not. For that we can just run sudo system control status Nginx. So you can see it is active. So now we'll be able to access the Nginx default page through web browser. Now let's go to the web browser, and this is the public IP. You can just select it from here and I'll just paste it here and check whether we are able to access the Nginx web page or not. So we are trying to access it over HTTP, that's why it is saying it is not secure. It's okay for now. Let's continue to website, and yeah, you can see this is the default page of Nginx and we were able to access this page. It was only possible because we have opened the ports. So if you go to the networking section and click on network settings, so from here you can see in network security group, we have opened SSH, HTTPS and HTTP port, right? If we'll not open this port, then we'll not be able to access this page. So for example, if I am refreshing it, you can see that it's still visible. Let's get back and click on HTTP. So for now, I'll just deny this access, right? Now the traffic that is coming on port 80 to this virtual machine are not allowed. We have saved it. It is trying to update the security rule. Once that has been updated, click on this 3 tab and we'll click on new incognito window and just type this. Okay, so let's see. Continue to site. So you can see that this site can't be reached, right? So currently it has been denied. Also, you can just delete this route. Now let's get back to the HTTP and we'll try to do allow again. So this has been refreshed. If we'll go back to our page, so you can see it's again reachable. So that means, so this is the importance of network security group. On the basis of different ports, on the basis of different IP address, you can just block the, or you can manage the inbound and outbound traffic, right? If you want to add more port rule, you can just add it from here. In the operations, you can click on auto shutdown. So let's say if you have any use case in which you want to shut down your VM automatically after some time. So let's say your user only uses your website, or there is some application that is being used only in the daytime. So at the night time, after some of specific time, you can just shut down your VM, right? So you can just click on enable to enable the auto shutdown, and you can provide whatever time you want to provide to, shut down your VM. It will stop your VM. Okay. Now let's get back to the overview. So from here, you can see there is another option that you can utilize, that is for stopping the instances and starting the instance. This option you can use if you want to restart your instance that you do. It is very much similar that you do on your local machine. So that's how you can start and stop your virtual machine. Now if you want to delete your virtual machine, you can just click on this one. So the resource which will be deleted is the DevOps web server, and this is the OS disk network interface and the public IP address. If you remember, we have marked the option when we will try to delete the virtual machine, delete all these 3 things together with the virtual machine. So if you don't want to delete, let's say OS disk, you can just unmark it. For now we want to delete it. So yeah, I have read and understand that this is virtual machine that we want to delete. So I have just checked it and we have deleted it. And you can see from here, the deletion of virtual machine has been started. So you can see it has been deleted successfully. Now, if we'll go to this resource group, we'll still see there are few resources that are available. So you can see like still SSH key is available, NSG is available, and virtual network. And within this virtual network, there will be a subnet. So we want to delete these things as well. That's why a resource group becomes very useful. You can delete all the related resources at once using the resource group. So this is the another benefit of resource group. You can see all the similar resources or all the relevant resources at the same place. I am just deleting this, and once this resource group gets deleted, all the resources within this resource group will also get deleted. So this is important for you, because if you don't know which resources has been created, you will not be able to find that resource and you will not be able to delete that resource as well. In that case, you can just go to your resource group and delete the whole resource group so that extra cost will not be charged to you. So always check your resource group to understand whether there is any element that has been left behind to delete or remove. If you click on this, you can see it is trying to delete the resource group. The resource group has been deleted. In that case, if you will refresh this page, you will not be able to find that resource group. So you can see that resource group has been removed and there is no related resources as well. They have also been removed from here. So that was all for this video. Thank you all. Enjoy the series. And if you like this video, please subscribe to our channel.